All right, folks, it's time we get this thing fixed, back on the road, ready to go. My name is Jason and this is Mohawk Motors. We're gonna get this poor, crushed up 2500 HD better than new. Let's get to it.
Welcome to the gray land. And guess what I've been up to for the last approximately 2 weeks? I've been doing a lot of sandblasting. I've got a little side quest that I want to get done before I move on to the CUCV. And long story short, I had said in a previous video that I never want to sandblast a vehicle again, and I really did not want to do that. But all the local places that I called about sandblasting were 4 to 6 weeks booked out, and I needed it done now. So I spent the last couple weeks sandblasting this frame, everything that goes onto the frame. Top and bottom, inside and out, the rear axle, cross members, tubes, all the associated bracketry, transmission cross member, torsion bar cross member, torsion bars, center link, the lower control arms, engine cross member, skid plate. Blasting everything, and I'll explain why in a few minutes, but I figured I would show you this setup. I bought this 10 by 20 canopy for $200, and my thought process was if I could contain all the media and mess inside the canopy, that'll make it easier to reuse the media and clean up. Well, no. Version 1.0, I had all 4 sides closed off, and that just didn't work at all. It got so dusty I couldn't see in front of my face. So version 2.0 was up against the doors, trying to blow the dust out. And that was better, but still not great. And I couldn't think of a better way to do that. I used 2 box fans to just move the air out. And it helped. I was able to get through an entire tank of media before I couldn't see what I was doing anymore. But no, this seals it for me. From now on, I'm just going to have to plan accordingly so that I can allow time to send a frame out and be sandblasted if that's what I need to have done. Because this is too big a project. It's too big a task. If I try to do it outside, which would be ideal as far as the dust and mess is concerned, I'll spend a fortune on media. Trying to do it inside, I can save money on media, but the mess is a disaster. I mean, I don't know how well it shows up, but everything in my workshop, everything is covered in dust. I mean, it's like it snowed dust in here. So, I finished blasting last night. Today is the beginning of cleanup. So I think first thing I'm going to try to do here is get the canopy outside. It's actually raining, so maybe if I get this canopy drug outside, the rain will help wash some of the dust off of it for me. And then I'm going to have to come in and get masked up again and start trying to get the dust blown off of everything. It's on the TV, it's on the walls, it's on the shelves, it's everywhere. It's just everywhere. So I guess I might as well just get to it, right? Here we go. All right, it's a couple hours later. I haven't paid attention to exactly how much time this is taking. But I'm calling it for today. I'm at a good stopping point. I have other stuff to do. But I'll at least show you, right? So I chose this frame. This is an extended cab long bed frame for a 2500 HD or 3500 series truck. You know, I've got a pile of these trucks stacked around here, but there's one that is very special, and I've been doing some research and realized it's more, I don't want to use the word rare, but there are very few of them, and that's the 2006 2500 HD that I have with a manual transmission. The research that I've been doing has shown me, I've found that less than 1% of the trucks made in 2006 came with a manual transmission from the factory. So that is an uncommon truck that I have sitting out there. And I want to do it up as nice as I can. I'm gonna, once it's all said and done, it'll have a reconstructed title, but it'll be a true 2006 manual transmission truck. And I do plan to sell it when I'm finished. Now, I'm using this frame because this is one of the cleanest frames that I have. And it's straight, it's true, everything looks good. The rear cross member, which has a habit of rusting out on these trucks, is solid and good. There's nothing to worry about there. The only thing that isn't perfect about this frame is right here where the internal gusset is. You can see it's rusted through. So I'm gonna cut this out and weld a plate in and get that patched up. And then we'll get this frame coated. So, all right, everybody, it's a few days later. And the workshop is as clean as it's gonna get for now. I haven't pulled everything down off the shelves, but I've blown everything out as best I can. I've swept up, I've blown out, I've swept up. I think I've got it pretty good. It's good enough that I'm comfortable working in here again. So, we gotta get this frame taken care of. You can see I've got it flipped back over and I've got it picked up to a comfortable working height. And here's what we're getting into today. You can see right here on the inside gusset in the frame, we've got peeling rust. And this will not pass enhanced inspection. Not to mention, I wanna get, the reason this has happened is there's been rust jacking between the outer frame and this inner gusset. So my plan here is put a plate in it. And I still have some 1/8" plate left over, which is the same thickness as that gusset. I'm gonna cut myself a nice big rectangle. Then I'm gonna put that rectangle right here, trace it, cut out my bad spot, get all that rust out of there and build up that's caused the rust jacking, and then weld my plate in. It's nothing tricky, nothing complicated. Once I get the plate welded in, then I'll come from the outside and I'll cut this hole back in it. I'm not sure why that hole is there, but I think less stuff will get stuck in between there if I have it still able to be passed through as opposed to blocked off from the back. So I'm gonna put it back. Here's the piece, the inner gusset piece rusted out. Look at this rust jacking. This is tough stuff. So I'll get all that cleared out of there. up in a more comfortable position to weld. This is also going to help because I want to paint the bottom side of the frame before the top side. I've got some weld through primer here inside where I've cleaned out all the rust. Weld through primer on the back side of my plate here. Should be able to just stick it right down in to position. Yes, just like so. Here we go. And then weld it. Frame is all, patch is all welded in. The same thickness material as from the factory. Was able to get good weld all the way around. And I mean, that's solid. That's good as new. And once it's painted, without watching this video, you'd never know it was there. And that's my goal. I want this to be super clean, super nice. I'm gonna do everything the best I can to try to have this truck just turn out as nice as it deserves, because it's an uncommon truck. A 2006 with a manual transmission is hard to find. So I'm gonna get the frame set back over here on the ground. I swept up again just to get all the dust and debris and everything off the floor. I'm gonna get the frame back over here up on jack stands and in position so it's ready to be painted tomorrow. And then that'll be it for today. So I'll probably see you guys tomorrow. Well, everybody, it's actually later that same evening now. It's getting close to 11 o'clock, finishing up out here. I have been prepping, getting ready to start painting stuff. I've got all my parts that I want to hit with chassis saver. They're all hung, they're all blown off. They're all wiped down with acetone. They're as clean as I can get them. I've got new ball joints, lower ball joints in the lower control arms. So those won't mar the paint when I have to install those later. They're already in. I can't think of anything else I can do to make this more ready to be painted. It's clean, it's prepped. I've got all the dust out of the air. You can see I've got the floor wet. That was a recommendation to me by my buddy Alan, who does paint for a living. And guys, this is my first time shooting paint out of a spray gun. And we're just going for it. I'm gonna follow the instructions right on the can, which for spraying, it says it needs to be above 45 degrees. We've got that. I've got it up to 65 in here. It's been here all day. I'll leave the heat on overnight when I get done. It says to cut it with xylene, 2.5 to 3.5 ounces per quart of paint. So I'm gonna start out, I only have 34 ounce, there's 32 ounces in a quart and I only have 34 ounce mixing cups. So I'm gonna adjust that a little bit. I'm gonna go 30 ounces of paint and 32.5 ounces of xylene, or excuse me. I'm going to do 30 ounces of paint and 3 ounces of xylene and see how that goes for me. I've got my strainer, I've got a stirrer, I got my gun set up. I've already had the gun hooked up. I've got my air dryer activated. I've got my pressure dialed down. It says to spray between 6 and 8 PSI, so I'm set to there. And I I fiddled with the adjustments on the back of the gun and the bottom of the gun here. I think I got the air at a good enough starting point. I think I got the paint at a good enough starting point. So I've got a couple boxes set up over there that I can hit with a little test spray and see how it looks. And I'm just gonna go for it, guys. I don't know what else to do. Following the instructions, taking some tips from people I know that know how to do this. And hopefully it turns out halfway decent. So I figure this is my first coat, my first attempt. If it ends up looking like trash, I'll figure out what I got to do next. But if it even looks at least halfway good, then that's all I'm really hoping for. I just need it to stick and to not look like somebody painted it with a friggin' super soaker. So let's do this. All right, everybody, I'm getting out of here, but I figured I'd give you the after. So I've got everything painted. Yes, I was wearing my respirator while I was doing it. I'm done. I'm getting ready to go up. That's why I'm not wearing it. But frame is all painted. I've got some runs to be expected. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how this looks for my first time ever spraying paint out of a paint gun. Leaf springs, lower control arms, everything's painted up. So I realized I had one little oversight. All of this stuff releases flammable vapor, and I use an oil burning furnace to keep it warm in here. I don't know how to have the furnace on without risking igniting all this flammable vapor. So hopefully it's gonna stay warm enough in here overnight that it doesn't cause any problems with paint curing. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think about that until I was finishing up, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I can't turn the furnace on. This stuff is gonna be off-gassing all night. So, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I guess I'm just gonna hope that it doesn't get super cold in here overnight and my paint stays okay. It's 65 in here now. I'm sure it's probably high 30s, low 40s outside, so it'll take a little while, but we'll see. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll show you how it looks. And by the way, it's 1:30 in the morning, and I started painting at a little after 11, so 11:30, 12:30, almost 3 hours worth of painting. But again, I'm learning, first time. I'm giving myself some grace on this. Hopefully tomorrow, next coat, second coat, will go a little bit faster. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, everybody, it's the next morning. I'm back down here. Got the doors open to try to clear the air. And for the most part, everything looks pretty good. I've got some runs. Some spots where I was obviously a little heavy-handed. But overall, I'm pretty happy. For the most part, it's pretty even. It's good texture. I've got good coverage. There are a few spots that are a little lighter and a few little spots where I missed. But for the most part, I think it looks really good. The paint seems to have cured how it's supposed to. It was 48 degrees when I got down here this morning, so I believe it did not get too cold in here last night, which is good. And you know, like here's a spot that I was a little light. Here's a spot that I missed. But for the most part, I think it looks really good. And the goal is accomplished, right? Because it looks 1,000% better than it did as partly rusty and peeling off factory coating and everything else. So for the most part, I'm very happy with this. I am going to give it a second coat. I think I have enough paint that I can mix up a second coat. I can even out the obvious places. I'm not super worried about getting all inside of this frame rail again, because one, that's going to be the top and the inside where the least stuff accumulates. But I do want to get the whole bottom and try to make that nice and even. The whole outside, try to make that nice and even. Up here around the suspension parts where stuff tends to accumulate. So between that and all my little odds and end pieces and the rear axle that I completely forgot about last night, I'm pretty sure I have enough paint to do a second coat on those parts and a second coat on all my separate pieces. And then I'll let that cure, probably have to cure till tomorrow. And then after that, I'll flip the frame over, give it 2 coats on the top, and then painting should be, I think I'll be pretty happy with it at that point. So I'm gonna let the air exchange in here for a while, and then I'll get it heated up in here again. And then I'm probably going to go find something else to do and let this paint cure as well. So, all right, folks, I got the second coat all sprayed. Everything looks really good. Much better this time, fewer runs. I think everything's gonna look really nice once the paint cures. I will have to do a second coat on the rear since this was just the first coat I forgot last night, but that's not a big deal. That'll look good when it's done. Frame is looking good. So overall, I'm pretty pumped. I mean, I'm not ready to try to paint the body panels on a show truck yet, but to get the frame and chassis components all one color and looking pretty decent, I'm pretty happy. So I'm gonna go up, let the paint cure, and probably be back down here, get after it again, probably tomorrow. See you guys then. All right, everybody. Short update this evening, a couple nights later. Second coat on the frame turned out great. I'm gonna let it cure until today's Monday night. It's probably gonna cure until Tuesday, tomorrow night or the next night. And then I'm gonna flip it over because I need to do the top side of the frame and then the inside bottom of the frame. And I'm waiting on more paint to be able to do that. I have more chassis saver being delivered on Thursday. So when that gets here Thursday, hopefully Thursday evening, I'll be able to come down and get my first coat on those parts. Once I get that first coat on and it cures, my plan is to start getting things put back together. I want to get the transmission cross member and the torsion bar cross member put back in. I want to get the front differential put in. I want to get the engine cross member put in, sway bar, leaf springs, lower control arms. I want to start getting a lot of things back onto the frame that bolt to the frame. And once I have all of those things bolted on, then I'm gonna go around and do touch-ups with my chassis saver. And my goal here is, I want everything on this frame to have a coat of, at least one coat of paint on it. And that will keep it clean, no rust, no issues for a very, very, very long time. And this evening, what I've been doing is getting some of my other small miscellaneous pieces blasted. I've got my motor mount brackets, my U-bolt cups
plates, the U-bolt plates for the top of the springs, my little torsion bar tabs, front shock mounts, sway bar, and the steering gearbox. I've got all of these blasted off. So I'm gonna give them a coat of primer, and then a coat of paint, and then probably another coat of paint before I bolt all of those pieces onto the frame as well. So I'm really hoping, if things go well, if my paint gets here on Thursday, then Thursday night, I should be able to, oh, actually we have plans Thursday night. Friday night, I'm really hoping that I'll be able to get everything bolted back together. At least everything that I want to get bolted on before I set the drivetrain back down into it. Go around, do a coat of touch-ups on everything, and then this week, that'll probably be the end of this video. Once I have everything bolted back to the frame, it's sitting on its own weight again. I think, I hope. That's the plan right now. You know, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So we'll see if it turns out going that way. But man, I am really happy with how this thing is looking and how it turns out. That second coat of chassis saver on everything really made it just look nice. And I'm sure once I get the fresh can on Thursday and go around, get everything bolted on and do my touch-ups and everything else, this thing is gonna look really, really good. And it'll be protected from the elements for a long, long time. So that's it for now. I'll see you guys when I have more to share. I'm gonna get some paint blasted onto these things so they can set. And I'm gonna call it a night, and I'll be back down here tomorrow evening. Everybody, it's a couple nights later, and I'm just chipping away at stuff down here. I've got all my little small pieces here. They're in their first coat of black. I'll give them one more coat before I start bolting them onto the various places that they belong. The steering gearbox, the U-bolt plates, U-bolt top plates, motor mount brackets, shock mount brackets. Oh, what the heck are these? Torsion adjusters, etc., etc. Got all that stuff. It's drying. I'll be ready to start getting that bolted on probably tomorrow evening. And I'm trying to just think of all the stuff that I can do to prep for reassembly in between coats of paint and stuff. And I realized, oh, hey, I have a new differential cover. This one wasn't leaking yet, but it's pretty crusty. And I figured might as well just get a new one on there. That way it's not something that we need to worry about. So, pulled the cover, got the old gear oil drained out, and got the bolts all cleaned up. Got the differential cleaned out. Got a new cover over here. We'll get the new differential cover bolted on there, sealed up tight. And then the rear axle will be ready for its second coat of paint as soon as my paint gets here. What's today? It's Tuesday. Thursday, my paint's supposed to get here. I probably won't actually get to putting it on until Friday, but that'll have the rear end will be totally ready for its next coat of paint, and then getting it bolted back under the frame, which once I get that back together, I'll get the frame flipped over so it's ready as well. So moving along, just doing stuff. Everything inside of this rear differential looks good. It's 410 gears like it's supposed to be. It is an open differential, which is considerably stronger than the G80 differential in these 14 bolts. But obviously there's no traction aid, so it's an open differential. However, if you want to add something like a Detroit locker, a Grizzly locker, anything like that, that's the differential carrier that you need. So I'm not doing anything with it, but if whoever buys the truck decides they want to get a little bit more traction in the rear of this thing, it will not be a big deal for them to add some form of automatic locking differential. So I'm going to get the cover sealed up, get it back on there, torque down to spec, and then keep on keeping myself busy down here. I'll probably check in with you guys again tomorrow. Well, folks, I'm at a good stopping point for the evening. So, figured I'd wrap it up for you, show you how I'm leaving things. I've got the frame flipped over, wiped down, prepped, ready for paint. Unfortunately, I am waiting for the paint to get here. It's Tuesday evening now. I don't think my paint's gonna get here till Friday. So I'm gonna have to find other ways to keep myself busy, because you can see all of my top sections need to be painted. Top of the cross members, top of the frame rails, top of the cross members down here. Like, all these tops need to be painted. And the way I want to do this to make sure I get as good of paint coverage as possible is I want to do one coat with my chassis saver and get everything that isn't yet painted, as well as my second coat on the rear axle. Once that coat dries, then I want to get all of my cross members and things bolted onto this frame. So the transmission cross member, the front engine cross member, the motor mount brackets. Oh, what else? The torsion bar cross member, the rear leaf springs, the lower control arms. I want to get all of those things bolted on and put into place. The front differential even. I think I'm going to try to mask the front differential off as best I can. Once I have all of those pieces of the frame bolted into place, I'm going to give it one more coat / touch up with chassis saver to get all the bolt heads painted, all the nuts painted, anything that I may miss on my next coat on the top here painted. So there will be essentially everything of the chassis will be sealed up tight with chassis saver, and that should help it last a long time. On top of it'll just look really good. So I still have a little bit of paint work I can do on some of my small pieces over here on my rolling cart. And I'm sure I could probably find some other things to do as well to keep myself busy. But I'm really hoping that I don't end up getting stuck until my paint gets here. So that's it for tonight. I'm actually going to be able to get into bed before midnight. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, folks, it's a couple nights later, and my first coat of paint on the top half of the frame is all dried and cured. It looks good. My second coat of paint on the rear axle looks good. So I want to start getting some things put back into the frame. Stuff that I don't mind getting more paint on. And honestly, some of it is stuff that I want to get more paint on. I'm going to get the torsion bar cross member put back in, the transmission cross member, the front cross member. I'm probably going to start getting the rear suspension put back into this thing. And what else? Motor mount brackets. Probably the sway bar. Maybe a few other things too. I'm going to see how it goes. I'm going to get the steering gearbox bolted back on it. Bunch of stuff. Pretty much as many black pieces as I can get put back on here, I'm going to get put back on here. So that way, hopefully, when my replacement paint gets here that I'm waiting on, I can hit my last bit of chassis saver onto this thing and then do my final chassis assembly. So I think this might be interesting to watch on a time lapse. I'll get you guys set up on that and start putting things together. sorry guys, battery died there and I didn't realize it. But I'm getting wrapped up for the night. It's about 11:45. I'm at a good stopping point. I'm waiting on some paint to dry. So I'm gonna call it for tonight. I'll come back down tomorrow and we'll keep on going. I should be able to get this thing, I think I could probably get this thing to a rolling chassis again by tomorrow afternoon. And that's where I wanna stop this video. Here's where we are. You can see I've got a lot of stuff put together here in the front. Steering gearbox obviously was good, but all the other steering is new. New steering stabilizer, new pitman arm, new idler arm bracket. Oh, all new hardware, all new grease fittings. The only piece that isn't brand new is the center link, but that's just a piece of steel, so nothing in that to wear out. Got everything painted up how I want to get it painted up as I'm going here, and once I get a little further along, I'll mount up my grease fitting out here on the outside of the frame so it's easy to keep that idler arm greased. Front suspension, got the lower control arms loosely in place, torsion bars loosely in place, new bump stops in the front, the bump stops in the rear were good. You can see here, you saw I've got all the rear suspension back in place, and you may notice here I do have a small block, and those are obviously new shock absorbers. In doing this thing, I realized I needed new shock absorbers, front and rear. I needed, what else did I need? Oh, I needed new upper control arms. It's honestly cheaper and easier to buy new upper control arms than it is to replace the ball joints in the old ones. So I'm gonna do new upper control arms. And by the time I priced out shocks, it was only $200 more to just get a small lift kit for the truck. So I am doing an 1.5 to 2 inch lift kit on it, which allows me to keep the front differential in the factory location, which I wanna do. And everything will line up and still be good to go up in the front too. So I think that's gonna add to the stance for this truck. It's gonna make it look nice, especially because I have a set of oversized tires, well, larger than stock tires that I wanna put on it when everything's all said and done. But she's coming along, man. It's really, I'm happy with how it's going. The only reason I'm really stopped for the evening is I'm waiting on paint to dry on my alignment adjuster ears, tabs, whatever the heck these things are called, for the front, for the upper control arm. And I have new steering knuckles and new wheel bearings, but I need to go get the bolts that mount the wheel bearings to the knuckles off of some of my parts trucks out back. It's late, it's super cold outside, so I'm just gonna grab those tomorrow. And once I grab those, like I said, my paint will be dry. I can finish getting the front suspension and steering all put back together on this thing, and we'll have a rolling chassis. Well, it's the next day, everybody, and I've been out here for a little bit chipping away at stuff. I've got the upper control arms on, the new CV axles on, and these are track motive extended travel high torque axle shafts. So I've seen a lot of people putting up really positive reviews and talking about how much they like these better than the stock ones, especially in an application where you're lifted a little bit and you need a little bit more travel. I mean, they seem beefy, so I'm excited to see how these work and how they hold up in this truck. And yeah, we're gonna give them a shot. New axle shafts both sides, obviously new upper control arms, new shock absorbers, the new ball joints upper and lower, and like I said last night, all new steering. So it's not super exciting stuff. I'm taking my time, I'm putting anti-seize where I need anti-seize, I'm getting stuff painted so it all stays not rusty. Hopefully stays not rusty and stays looking good for a long time as well. And yeah, just figured I'd give you guys an update. At the pace I'm going, I think I'll have it back to a rolling chassis by this afternoon. I've got my new wheel bearings here, with the brake backing plates on it, and I just painted those so they're drying. But new wheel bearings both sides. Getting new knuckles on both sides. All new brakes, obviously, including all new lines, all new calipers, all that jazz. That'll probably be next video, but I'm gonna keep chipping away at this thing, get this front end put back together so I can roll it around, and yeah, I'll bring you back when I have something else to show you. Woo! Shiny. Well, as you can see, everybody, I've been hard at it out here. I've pretty much got the whole front end put together. I'm real quick gonna slap my new brake lines on. I've got new braided stainless brake lines for the front calipers. So I'm gonna get those on real quick. And then I think I'm ready to sit the front end on its own weight on the wheels and tires. And I was thinking about just keeping it on my roller wheels and tires, but I already have the ones that I want to put on this truck, and I feel like that'll be a good boost to keep moving and keep getting stuff done on this thing. So I'm going to put the wheels and tires on it that I'm planning to run. So yeah, a couple more minutes, and then I think I'll be able to wrap this video up. Well, folks, are you ready to see this thing? I'm pretty pumped. I think this is probably going to be my best chassis rebuild restoration so far, I think. It looks good. Boom. These wheels and tires I've had kicking around for, geez, a year and a half or so. They came off of a truck I parted out at the old house, so probably closer to 2 years. And I didn't know what I was going to do with them. They were I couldn't get anybody that wanted to pay what I thought they were worth. And they were too nice to scrap. And I think they'll look good. They were on another truck the same color as this one is going to be. And it looked really good. So I think they'll look really good on this one. They look really good just on the chassis. And you know I like black wheels. So she's all together. I got all the brand new steering components greased and snugged. Nothing is fully tightened yet because I need to get, obviously, the drivetrain and the body on it before I go through and fully tighten all of the suspension components and everything else. But all the brand new steering parts are greased. Everything is, everything for the lift kit is installed. And it rolls. So I'll be able to free up my center bay here, get it back over to the project bay, and get back to using the lift for other things because I have other things that I need to get done. So that's it for this one, guys. I am pumped. This thing, it looks so good. And I think whoever ends up with the truck is going to be really happy with it. I mean, it'll last easily another 20, I would say probably 30 years now that I've done all this and painted everything and been as thorough as I have. And a good foundation leads to a good truck. And we've got about as good a foundation as we can get now, which is going to be a pretty sweet truck when it's all said and done. So that's it for this portion. Oh, and I did want to mention, in case you're wondering, man, Jason, you just told us you were going to work on the CUCV. Now you're working on this? Yes. I went through my finances. I looked at what I have in reserve. I looked at what I want to get done before car show truck season in the spring. And thought about what it's going to cost me to do the CUCV the way I want to do it. And in order to do all that stuff, I want to get more money in the bank. And now is good time of year to be selling a truck. I think I can get this one done before the end of good truck selling season. So I'm going to get this one done. That way I can use the proceeds of this sale to do the CUCV up and do it the way I want to do it. So that's why. But that's it for this one, team. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I do still need to do the rear brakes on this, but that'll be in another video. And yeah, till the next video, everybody. Take care.